So, Rick, I'm in a group called Austin Conscious Community, and they've got about 5,000 members in it. And here is the question that someone named John Calvert posted today. I don't know if this is the right question for here. How does a man that has stronger feminine energy bring up his masculine energy? What do you think about that?
With stuff like this, I always have to ask a couple more questions because I wish it was just as simple as like a blanket answer on it. I'd have to know in what aspect. If he means relationship, personal life, if he just means in general at work, because there's different ways that we have to like find a balance within ourselves, and that's obviously a very tricky thing. We've had balance conversations. Balance is a very tricky thing. I'd have to know what aspect it is in his life, but most likely when they're talking about this, it comes into love. If I have to just be open with it, it comes down to the relationship and finding a respectful balance between being authentic and finding like a leadership standpoint on this. For this, I would probably lean more into like understand that we are built to lead in a certain aspect on things. We're not built to follow, even in the home. This doesn't mean you have to be toxic with it. It just means you have to be able to have confidence that I'm going to do what's best for my people and like follow me. I'm going to make sure that everything goes smoothly for you. Constantly asking others, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do is going to be very difficult to be able to be followed or to be the leader that you're meant to be. And so I would probably lean more into confidence and being able to figure out who he authentically is so he can lead as the type of man he's designed to be.
I'm going to jump in and sub for John Calvert with some follow ups because I have often identified myself as having more feminine energy than masculine energy. So, a couple quick ones is um, I feel a fair amount of shame around that subject. Just like I think I'm wired more feminine and I should be more masculine in different areas. And like my wife drives a 4x4 Chevy pickup truck and has all the power drills and stuff. And I've got musical instruments. And it's like sometimes I feel really ashamed about that. What are your thoughts?
Overcoming shame is another part where I like, even for this part, shame is I feel bad for what I am, is the definition for shame, is feeling bad for just what you are. And this is a really big part of for comparison, which comes into doubt, which comes into sadness in certain degrees. If I look in the mirror and I don't like what this is, and it's all parts of comparison, but each of us has a strength inside of us that is built to do a specific thing. And there's a way that we're built to be the type of people we are. And when you're comparing it to other people and constantly doubting or shaming what you are or what you're meant to be, you're going to run into confidence issues, which will be very difficult for you to be authentic in your leadership style. You don't have to be an aggressive alpha. Here's one thing too I want to throw out there. I'm going to throw you a cool story. This is one for the guys. When they did studies on gorillas and they studied the behavior of the silverback, this is supposed to be one of the most aggressive, powerful animals out there. And this thing would just tear you to pieces. A powerful animal. And you think these alphas are supposed to be the ones who are beating their chest all day and smash, smash, smash. But it turns out when they're watching gorillas, it's a very small percentage of ever having to defend or to fight for superiority. Most of the time, high 90% of the time, the silverback gorilla is actually doing more building, nurturing, supporting, cheering on the little ones. And you see the little ones like, look what I can do. And he's like, approval, the whenever there's turmoil or there's something sad, the silverback is actually nurturing and holding and loving the other gorillas. There's a lot more support and love and kindness that comes from being the most powerful. And so in this case, being overly masculine doesn't mean being the alpha jerk. It doesn't mean screaming and yelling. It doesn't mean smashing and breaking. A lot of times being the leader means nurture, build, support, and the silverback does far more support than he does attack. And I think that's something for like your warrior style would be like, how do I do more nurture, support, and build, but in a confident way without having to go first instinct, scream, smash, break.
Thank you. Last question is and you can have me in mind if you want to here. What do you think about setting a goal to bring up my masculine energy?
I would actually be curious on what you mean by set a goal, because like you mean like work out more, or what do you, I mean, I don't know what you mean by set a goal. You mean You know,
Yeah, let's
do
just say like people have said in my life, you should be more masculine. And
okay.
I want to do that, whatever that is.
This this is such a tricky thing, and this is why like I've even had conversations with other experts, and it still ends up falling into a highly subjective point of view. What is masculine and what is feminine seems to be subjective on each person I've talked to. So, what do you believe it means to be more masculine is probably the more accurate question, because everyone seems to have a different belief system around what that means. And so, like I said, some people may think it's like, I got to be captain of the football team and, headbutt everybody. That means I'm an alpha. It's like, well, I don't know if that's necessarily it, because most alphas in nature don't run around doing that kind of stuff. And so, like, what do you think that is? And then how would you set a goal about it would probably be my question to you.
I would have to journal on that.
Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
trickier than just like the blanket, like you need to do more push-ups and headbutt somebody. Like it's a little trickier than that, you know. And this is why the subjective point of view of authenticity mixed in with masculinity or femininity gets a lot more complicated. There's
Hmm.
a true belief system understanding that needs to be challenged, not by others, but by ourselves.
Hmm. Okay, I said that was last, but I've got one last. I just went and pulled up sort of like an energy profile, just did some searching on images, and I liked this one. It sort of jumped at me because it has the wounded, I think masculine, yeah, and natural masculine, natural feminine, wounded feminine. Um, do you have any reactions to this? Like, what do you see when you look at this?
I think here's a different thing with this one. And this is why I have a hard time with these kinds of things. Let's look at some of the words and say, could this go either way? Clarity, focus, support,
Hmm.
direction,
Hmm.
inner strength, like responsibility. Are those things that a female can't do?
No.
No, those are highly capable of doing. Discipline, confidence, like those are all things females can do. What about things on the natural feminine that guys can do? Can guys be kind,
Of course.
creative? Can they have feelings? Can they surrender? Can there be stillness? Unconditional love. I'll actually argue that unconditional love shouldn't be on here because I don't think that's a real thing. I'll happily go into why there's no such thing as unconditional love, because it seems
Writing
like
that
there's
down for another day.
conditions.
Yeah.
Another day, seems like there's always conditions. Otherwise, you could just show up on a date and say, "Hey, good to meet you. See, when do I move in? We're in together, right? Forever. No conditions." So I would argue with things like this, and this is where people start getting into like the who's right, who's wrong, who's good, who's bad. If you start going like, "Hey, just because like I'm in flow right now, am I really being feminine?" It's like, no, you can authentically be in flow and not have to be feminine. No different than, can she's focused right now? Does that mean she's being masculine? No, she's just focused. Like, we are what we are. And I think doing things like this, my first initial reaction is I would put this find the balance into your energy as more toxic than helpful, because it polarizes people inside of themselves as though they're being one thing or another versus being who they really are.
Wow. Thank you.